Okay, you are back with the Kid Street Noise Show, and we've actually made it back for episode 2, which no one thought we would do. Jack's joined me again for episode 2, which I'm surprised he has done as well. Even the dog's joining in the background now as well. You are now listening to the Kid Street Noise Show on 4000 Holes podcast from BRFCS. We'll be talking about all things Rovers for the last couple of weeks, and we've also got our main debate this week where it's my turn to pick a topic. So this week I'll be talking about how the death of physical media has ruined top level football worldwide, but especially in this country, or on these isles, I should probably say. But we'll also talk about Rovers things as well. We had a proud but frustrating draw at Molineux. We're going to talk about left backs and is Alebiosu the answer, or a left-footed Alebiosu the answer? We'll also talk about Toth going on his way, Jordan Rhodes potentially going on his way, and any other Rovers-related topics. But first of all, how are you, Jack? How's things?
Not so bad, mustn't grumble. Yeah, I think we'll get into it, obviously, but a pleasant Friday evening that was otherwise expected to be quite a dour one. So off to a good start. Let's see how it pans out.
Have you had any feedback or criticism from your first appearance on Kid Street Noise?
Plenty, of course. Lots of people have given their opinions, and I've taken them under advisement, but won't necessarily be implementing any of the recommendations.
Yeah, the Rudiger said approach to improvement.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazon's #1 best-selling book. So, I said in the first week we're going to be a lot more positive, and the way we're going to do that is to get all our negative energy out in part 1. So, I'll start with you, Jack. What has been bugging you this week?
I mean, on a general level, the kind of weird malaise through summer of nothing really one. On the Rovers side, not much, funnily enough. I think it's either I'm becoming a lot more stoic, or I've finally been ground down so as to not really expect anything and anything positive. So yeah, on a Rovers side, I actually think I'm as far as I'm willing to go.
Considering the fixture, like the fixture that we've played so far, content's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like the pitch is looking well. Everything's looking well for Saturday. Fingers crossed.
Have you been to see it?
So I went to the Tony Park's Remembrance Do at Ewood, and the pitch looked fantastic. I mean, I'm still like miles away because you're in the Jack Walker stand looking down on it, but it does look well. Obviously, it's had some growth since then. It's had some struggling growth because the weather's been ridiculously hot, so I don't know how well it's going to be watered and how easy it's going to be to play on, but we'll find out on Saturday. But yeah, looks very green, apparently it looks very narrow, so I listened to like the interview with the guy from STRI and I want to say Trevor Wilkin, the main groundsman, who said like the pitch is exactly the same, it's just going to appear more narrow because they've got rid of some of the turf at the side and replaced it with like the blue running track, which I don't really understand, but how it'll look more narrow. But yeah,
I've often thought about this being Ewood, looking at players taking corners. It was always a really steep like climb, essentially.
Yeah.
So maybe I haven't actually seen the up close. I've not been down, and I think while the social media content has been good, it seems to have been focusing on the dead center of the pitch, not necessarily the exact angle of attack of taking a corner. But I'm fascinated to see how that. I don't know. I was staggered that nobody ever broke their ankle trying to take a corner there. In the history of
apparently the runoff's dead a lot steeper at the Darwin end than it is to the Blackburn end, and just never been at that side of the stadium whilst having a season ticket, I've just never noticed that. Like, it's always just not looked that bad at the Blackburn end, but apparently the Darwin end runoff is a lot steeper. But yeah, I've never noticed it. I've never like known clubs or players to complain about like a hilly Ewood Park pitch. So yeah, but yeah, it still looks nice. But yeah, we'll see on Saturday, won't we? Away from football, the thing that bugs me the most. So I've been remote for like the last 4 years, but at the new job, I'm now completely in the office. The amount of like pensioners and retired people that shop at the times that are detrimental to the working people. Like, so like I'll go into like our office is right next to Asda, so you'll nip in there for your lunch. There'll be people that are years retired in the self-scan, taking up loads of it. Like, why have you not done this at a more appropriate time? And then doing the weekly shop there on a Saturday morning, like, you've had all week to do this. Why are you now getting in my way? And that's just, honestly, I complain about it every single week. My partner's had enough of me complaining about it, but I come home from Sainsbury's on a Saturday morning, I'm like, honestly, them pensioners, just get out there should be like a, you know, like how the people at Rovers Turnstiles check your age, like when you're going in, make sure you got the right scenes. That's what it should be. Like if you're retired or you're over 65, free bus pass. You're not coming in shopping until weekdays afternoons.
You might be onto something here. Maybe I'm misremembering this, but I think on a Sunday, like quite big. You know how like some Sunday supermarkets are only open for about 5-6 hours because they're Sunday trading hours. They would open at 10, but only to certain people, and you could browse for the first hour. But I seem to remember that there was it was essentially like a pensioner's hour. Like you could browse as a pensioner and get around and get your shop done, but then you could check out at 11. I don't know if that's necessarily true, if I've made it up, but in my head, maybe it was a thing of only a pensioner is doing that at 10 a.m. on a Sunday. I don't know. But I seem to remember that was an exclusively age-related thing. So if they're getting the free hour there, then maybe they need to be excluded from business hours.
Which sounds ridiculously fascist if we were to run the country. Pensioners aren't allowed to shop in certain hours.
Needs must, right?
Yeah, definitely. Put my foot down. But yeah, it's mad that you mentioned the browsing hours. I used to work at Asda, and we'll get on to Blackburn Rovers stuff in a minute. Just are you listening?
In our own
what the hell
time.
are you listening to? Yeah, just relax, just chill out and enjoy it. So the browsing hours on a Sunday, there always used to be people coming in on the way to Pleasanton who would like pick up a bottle of Lucozade, or on the way to junior football would pick up a drink for the kids, and then be like, "What do you mean I can't buy it? Like, well, the tills don't open until 10:30." And be like, "But you're there. You're stood here now to serve me." And the amount of people that would like give me a £1 coin, like just scan it later, I'm like, I can't do that. I'm not that person. Like, I don't know what you expect me to do here and now. But yeah. Enough about Sunday trading hours in the UK and all the issues that gives us the working people during the week. On to Rovers. So, did you watch any of the games, the Burton game in the Cup or the Wolves away game?
I did. I was deeply disturbed by the Burton game in many ways. Talking about what you spoke about last week, summer-wise, I had that creeping feeling of... it's peculiar watching a Rovers game, even though it's what I mainly do, but like on your own, because the compulsive scrolling in a time of despair, which is very much when you're losing to Burton in the first competitive fixture of the season. The distraction element of you almost don't want to address what's happening in front of you, so you decide that you'll go to the safety of your phone to find the opinions of people who are as like kind of disturbed by what's happening as you, and you'll kind of find relief in like, I'm not crazy, I should feel bad about this, to the extent that the turnaround, because I think the first half, I think my brother called me in the first after the first during a half time after the first half, and we just looked at each other for a solid 20 seconds, you know, like neither of us wanted to be the first person to say anything. I can't remember who broke the silence. It was kind of real recriminations about it. The turnaround was good in theory. It did feel like a relief, and then I realised we weren't necessarily a big enough club to say, oh, it's a bit of a wobble and a bit of a let-off. There's something about like United or Arsenal kind of maybe going down relatively early and struggling and labouring to come back and be like, oh, it's a lesson learned. It's like, no, this is potentially a warning. And then subsequent to that, it was a really familiar negative feeling that crept in when we went 1-0 down. Again, we'd started quite brightly, which it just seems to have happened to us in quite a lot of games over the past 3-4 seasons, where we start quite brightly, get sucker punched, and then we're kind of labouring to try and get back into it. But in all seriousness, by the end of it, I was really pleased. Obviously gutted at the end. We can talk about this, but Alebiosu looked like he was out on his feet, and I think we didn't have any changes left, and he was basically being asked to stay on. So that kind of...
Yeah, it was so strange, because obviously cramped up before the subs were made.
Yeah.
So it was almost like, could you delay those subs and then give him another minute, and if he's coming off, he's coming off? Like, why make the subs whilst there's someone down visibly injured? But looking at the bench, we don't have a right back. I know Carter can play there,
Yeah.
but he isn't a right back, and I'm not 100% sure he'd be fully fit as well. So like you're at, I don't know how you putting a bandage on a plaster, which is a terrible analogy. But Alebiosu's dead on his feet. Let's bring on Carter, whose hamstring is like held together by a paperclip. Like, let's just not do that.
I'm gonna get the dog. She's got something to say about this. I've got real question marks about like what is Hayden Carter doing on the bench, but not being able to get a minute. I like Tom Aitchison a lot, but I would have assumed that Mowbray was keen to have his senior players, and he knows Carter and he likes Carter. And same question marks around around. Oh God, I wish it was Adam Wharton, Scott Wharton. I would have thrown on Carter if I'd have seen that happening and said, "What position you're in? I need you to be pretty solid. And just keep punting it away." So I've got kind of weird sympathy. I think I said this on BRFCS. I've got weird sympathy for watching Ryan Alebiosu being like, I'm so knackered and I'm very visibly injured to some extent, and I'm just going to try and get in front of this in any way I can do. If he just swung a lazy leg out, just everybody would have been like, yeah, that made sense. It's just the problem that it was kind of the little bit of a desperation move for him to just throw anything at it. Even still, I think in the moment I felt very acutely robbed and wish some genuine ill on things that happened to be in Molineux that evening. But I quickly got over that, realised that it was pleased with it. Like, if we do that 45 more times, everything will be fine.
Yeah. I think it's weird. It's probably, it's not necessarily too early to judge because we put a really good performance in the first half. Burton was a really bad performance. It's just weird that we've probably played the worst team we'll play this season in Burton. And we've probably played the best team that will play this season in Wolves, or one of the best teams that will play this season. And a lot of our games will be against teams bang in the middle of those two. So if you put in a performance like we did at Wolves, we will be fine. And the issue for me, like I've always the first 11 isn't bad, but the subs that were made on Friday night, although they were very positive and like they were forward players coming on, they've weakened the team a lot, and I think some of the senior players know that as well, and some of the senior players feel that, and it's almost like once those subs are made, okay, now we're hanging on. It's not like, oh, we can still play. It's like, okay, this is us shutting up shop now. We've made these changes to try and hold on to the win, and I think as soon as that happens, although we didn't really have to. It wasn't really like backs to the wall defending for the last 15 minutes. I think there was one moment where Montgomery puts in an unbelievable tackle. Yeah. But apart from that, I don't really remember much else where we were like, oh my God, that's a fantastic save, or that's a last-ditch block, or anything like that.
Yeah, agreed. And, the gradual kind of dropping off was inevitable and fine, and it's just what it comes down to, right? One team's applying pressure, the other one's trying to absorb as much as possible. Just like, I don't really want... It's a major just rush of blood to the head, a lot of optimism about maybe kind of getting on the pitch and stuff. Just hold on to it. And again, I don't want to lament it too much, because at the end of it I was pleasantly surprised by the fact that we managed to kind of look competitive more than anything and walk away with something. So yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Like, we'll probably fail to find... Sky aren't going to put us on Friday night every single week, where I think that's actually weirdly a factor for a few of the players who are, pre-2nd of September, mindful of any opportunities to be on TV when it's the main event. So maybe the motivation will be a factor. I think Mowbray's obviously said this week, like he said by Christmas we could have 4 or 5 injuries. He's essentially signalling that there's a bunch of key players that clearly aren't available right now and clearly can't contribute right now. So yeah, I'm not expecting us to do what I just said before, which is do this 45 more times. But if you can build something that looks like, then yeah. I think there's some decent names being linked so far. Don't know how you feel about the Roberts link. I don't know if there's much in that, or if people are just getting slightly ahead of themselves. But he's always been one of those players where I think, on paper, I think I would like you to play.
Yeah, I think with Patrick Roberts, you see his highlight reel at the end of the season, think, oh my God, he's a fantastic addition to any squad. But then, like you say, you watch him on a Tuesday night, 90 minutes where he hardly touches the ball, and you're like, you're a waste of a shirt out there. So are you really that good, or have you just bent one in the top corner in one of the 46 games and everyone thinks you're the next big thing? the issue for me, like, obviously, I think it would improve you, but then you've got a surplus player in his position at the same time. We've now got Afolayan and Fevrier, who I was actually impressed with both of them on Friday night. You've got Jurgensen that can play out wide. Deneva is still here.
He's still here.
He's still here.
You can't deny. You can't deny that he's still here.
This is top level analysis. Dion Deneva is still at Blackburn Rovers Football Club. Obviously, Marisha sometimes plays out there. Campbell's playing in 10, all that sort of stuff. And I think when you're building a squad, you want 2 for every position, and you've got like a few youngsters that can fill in the other gaps. Do you really want 4 right wingers or 4 people who can play there? Probably not. And then we've already talked about Alebiosu getting injured. But he was the one at the end of last season, if you could pick one player who was going to be sold, it would have been Alebiosu. And we're going into the second game of the season and he's our only right back. So surely if you were planning on him getting sold, you'd have been like, well, let's get someone who, I mean, you can't really buy someone to replace him straight away, but you can at least buy someone who's going to be backup to him. Or could you start implementing a younger player on the bench to play the cup game against Burton and then can be a bench player? I know Litherland. Was it Litherland that played there last season? Who was the young lad who came on and got his? Yeah, it was Litherland. So that lack of forward planning of this right back might go, we need a right back. We've been linked with left backs all this week, which we'll talk about in part 3. We'll talk about Harry Pickering, but I think we're absolutely fine in left back with Pickering and Ribeiro, and Deneva can also play there. I don't think you need another one. Centre backs, McLaughlin, Carter, Wharton, Aitchison. Pratt looks like he's going out on loan, but I think with McLaughlin, Aitchison and Pratt, you've probably got 3 that can cover the majority of your games, and then your Carter and Wharton are if they're fit, it's a bonus. So I don't mind having 5 centre backs. Centre mids, I still think we're short. It's like that seems to be I know we've got Baragi and Tavares to come back from fitness, but you can't hang your hat on them to play the rest of the season, which is a separate issue. We've yet to see if Tavares is actually good enough to play in the Championship. Like Baragi has shown bits, but can he sustain it? Or I know people have said once he gets a full pre-season, gets up to fitness, but that seems to be his issue, getting up to full fitness. I don't think we're that bad. Like the forward positions, if Good Johnson stays fit, and I'm gonna put a little counter in the bottom corner for if they stay fit, and he'll just keep saying that and just donate £1 to charity every time we say it. But eventually you're gonna have to buy a striker who can play your 40 games a season and can put the legwork in, but also can pop up with a crucial goal. And that's what, and I don't want to compare him to players who've had yesteryear and stuff, but you players like Matt Derbyshire, who wasn't the star striker and wasn't going to start every week, but for 46 games could come on for half an hour, run around a lot, make the defender's life a nightmare, but also score a goal if you got a chance. Mm-hmm. And I know the strikers are hard to come by, but everyone who brings us a bit of quality seems to not be fit. Everyone who's fit seems to be lacking quality. That seems to be the position we're in.
I guess 2 points in that last. The forward planning thing, we forget that Alebiosu was brought in, quote unquote, as a deputy to Britain. I mean, I don't think it was what was happening, but the face value of it was that Britain wasn't being sold. And then I can't remember which one he was, but our Australian friend whose name is I've had a long day. Lewis Miller was either a right back or a centre back, and now he's both at the same time. I guess in theory, he's quantum in that regard. I think he can be in both states at the same time, and it's never been clear. But they've clearly been able to do that. Maybe the strategy at this point is we're not going to sell Alebiosu because we have enough time on it, and frankly, we can get more for him later, or we can't be bothered, or we're waiting for Lewis Miller to return and be the right back cover that he always / the centre back that he eventually may become. But the second point that you said about this, the quality players can't stay fit in the quality. I think there's a couple of exceptions. I think Marishta's clearly got both fitness and he's probably the exception that proves the rule for Rovers. But it almost speaks to your big debate topic about the modernity thing of how modernity has been essentially eroded the quality of the game or the product that we like to watch. The way that kind of quite ruthless data analysis evolved has meant that I imagine you consider data analysis has probably been 15 years in professional sports in a meaningful sense, maybe closer to 20 even, you could say. The effect of that on youth players and how people are being dragged up, this has been going on for ages, where the taller you were, the faster you were. Except that coaches especially, seem to have just really like zoomed in on that. Don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting that some of our players can't actually, but whatever it is up in the mind that separates genuine quality footballers from, and we spoke about this last time, which was like the difference is like an Lamine Yamal. They don't actually train that. They just see these attributes that they like to have, which is, excellent work rate and halfway decent speed, and they just hammer that into them. Say, well, these are your strengths, so keep doing that. And they forget the bit where they initially picked them up and said, he's so quick, but he physically cannot turn at a kind of at a radius that's anything less than a steam. So we won't teach him that. We'll just make sure that he is simply the fastest person that's ever been. And you can't do that with like 200. But ultimately, when you hammer them, because quite a long time ago, somebody said to me, he said the problem with the professional athletes now is that they're essentially racehorses. They're good. They're basically ripe in a tiny window, and either side of it, they're either going to be sluggish and unresponsive, or they're essentially, they're on a hair trigger for snapping a hamstring. And I think the players that maybe never had that are the ones that had to do the work on the, as it's called, football IQ, or the kind of the immediate technical ability. And people haven't been generalised of each to... and certainly, I mean, like, in a game itself, that's the difference. Like, every single one of these players, if you kick a ball at them from 20 yards, will bring it down, or they'll be able to kind of, on stairs. I'm confident of it. But the minute you put them in front of 10,000, 15,000, they look sometimes like Pleasanton or similar, because they haven't got the overall all-round like intuitive ability on the ball and calmness. But I think that is a modern phenomenon. Although somebody did show me the the non-highlight footage in the past couple of weeks. The non-highlight footage of some howler stuff in there. I've never watched the entire game, but that is an extremely low standard of football.
It's a painful watch, isn't it?
It's really wild. Anyway, not to speak ill of the dead, I guess, in most instances.
Jesus. What episode this is. Do you not think like the fans have also changed the way they react to stuff like that? Because, and we'll definitely get into this in part 3. We'll talk about like Pickering versus Alebiosu, because Pickering looks slow, and I think because he wears black boots and is very World Cup 66 looking, like he isn't. But I bet if you put his stats up for distance covered and pace, I bet he's probably one of the quickest in the squad. But he's very much not rated because he isn't fast and won't sprint past the player, but everything else he does is way better than any other fullback we've got, and I don't understand why there's this. Like, I think you mentioned it before that we're going to hold out for more money for Alebiosu. Do you think he's worth it? Do you think, like, what would you put his market value at, and what would you be happy to accept for Alebiosu?
Yeah, I think it's two questions, isn't it? I think as a Rovers fan, looking at him and understanding what I think the actual ceiling for players that we sell is, or certainly the kind of the adjustment that bidding clubs will make, because they're like, well, he is coming from Rovers, so we can probably get it this percentage down. I don't think he's worth really more than 4 to 5 million in terms of the market value. But if
45?
45 million. Yeah, no, between 4 and 5, I think is the absolute ceiling, and I think he's a really, like, has to be applauded as like a really good turnaround for a player that was drafted back into kind of championship football from being in not much of a league and not in a relegated team, and has been kind of turned into a saleable asset with that kind of return. That's admirable. It's just a really good return. But I think if you're a club looking at Alebiosu playing for Sheffield United, let's say, I think he's a 6, maybe 7, maybe you can push a bit higher to 8 million, purely because a lot of people will look and be like, look at the explosive sprints that he's doing, look at the positive progression of the ball there would be. These are all the metrics that they will look at and say, well, that makes him a great player. But on the eye test, you will look at him and be like, I think you're terrified of your left foot sometimes. And then I watch you swing a ball in with your left foot, and I can see how little I can see how much you don't want to do it, and I can see how little confidence you've got in it getting there. And we do often see the result that maybe doesn't necessarily always get there. So it's two different questions. Like, what are people which boxes are people ticking necessarily, and what does that mean to them in their specific moment? As people say about everything, something's only worth as much as somebody's around. I think £5 million is an extremely good return on him. Like, I think it's just solid. Clearly, we don't have much of an idea what we would do with £5 million to replace Ryan Alebiosu, and maybe that's a separate problem in itself. You couldn't argue with it. It'd be a really kind of solid return.
Yeah, the thing for me, I think football's got this issue now where there is like a clear valley between the clubs that can pay £5 million for a right back aren't buying Blackburn Rovers right back because they're buying better players than that, and they can spend 8, 9, 10 million. And the players that might be willing to push to spend £3 million on him are competitors with us, so they will either we won't sell to them or they just won't buy him or won't stretch that amount of money. I think the the clubs that he's been linked with so far, if Everton bought him for £5 million as one of the names linked, I'd be disappointed as an Everton fan. If they've known since last January they need a right back and their answer is £5 million Alebiosu from Blackburn Rovers with 1 goal and 2 assists last season, the goal being a very weak cross with his left foot that's trickled in. I think as even the most positive Everton fan would be a bit like, no, come on, like we can do better than that. Like if we want to push for like the top half of the Premier League, for example.
I mean, I would say quickly, if you're replacing Seamus Coleman with Ryan Alebiosu, then I think when you look at it like that specifically, which is essentially what it would be, it'd be the body in the squad that's no longer there. And while I wouldn't expect him to start either, you'd look and be like, this is forward-looking signing. Conversely, if we replace Ryan Alebiosu with Seamus Coleman, I would be delighted. But that probably tells you how disappointing it would be the other way around.
How old is Seamus Coleman now? Is he still playing?
He's older than me, and he's apparently been training with a GAR club, as they call it, the GAA clubs out there. Oh. But he's not suggested that he'll be returning to that, because I think he did play it as a kid. As far as I read, he's not returning to that. He's training to keep fit, and he's potentially looking. I don't think that's a bad move. I think Sheffield United were linked with him at one point. I really don't think it's a bad move. Like, quite the professional. Clearly, if he fancies a challenge, you could sell it to him. If Mowbray has got particularly good with confectionery at the initial meeting, it could be turned to it. It's not that far to Liverpool to get a flight over, and Manchester to get a flight over. It's if he's wanting to spend more time in Ireland. I think it'd be I think it'd be a really, really, really signing. Yes, he's going to get done for pace, but his ability everywhere else. He's the kind of voice you would hope. As we kind of found out maybe by the tail end of that Wolves game, that I don't know what do we call Jordan Henderson's newly adopted role? What would be the kind of hipster football equivalent of the kind of motivational trequartista? Doesn't do a lot, but definitely
he is like the pitch manager, if you will, isn't he? Like the puppet master, like the
vibes
Philip
man.
Law once got just bringing solid vibes. Does Seamus Coleman bring vibes?
He brings
that's a disservice to such
tough vibes.
That's going to be the title of the podcast. He brings tough vibes. Okay, so we'll go on to part 2 now for the big debate. BRFCS will put in some messages here. We might put in a song or two. I don't know. Who knows? We'll see. And then we'll join you in part 2 for the big debate. Okay, welcome back to the Kidd Street Noise Show. And in part 2, we are going to be talking about my debate for this week, which is that physical media, or the death of physical media, has ruined top-level football in terms of the quality of the players, the games, the seasons, if you will. I also believe that clubs' ambition has died off with the death of physical media. And what I mean by that is that when in the 90s, growing up, everyone had like the season reviews, and I think someone once mentioned it. It weren't Kieran Maguire, but it was on a similar style of podcast where they were talking about financial in football. They might have interviewed someone who said that the 99 treble winning season was worth like an extra £10 million in VHS sales to Man United, which at the time was a lot of money. That's like, that'll buy you the next, well, probably paid for Ruud van Nistelrooy at the time. But once it got to like the 5th anniversary, 10th anniversary, they just re-release it on a different format, different guest speaker at the start, and make another million, 2 million. Now, I'm not saying that Blackburn Rovers would ever be the size of Man United to be able to do that, but other clubs that I've seen videos of physical media of would still be able to make a lot of money. For example, I grew up in a family that was split half Celtic, half Rangers, and was absolutely so passionate about football that if you went round to their house and looked at a DVD or video shelf, it would have Celtic reviews, Rangers reviews, DVDs around certain players. I remember Henrik Larsson, King of Kings, was a video I watched thousands of times with my cousin, which was unbelievable editing with like the Magnificent Seven theme music and stuff like that, and like Chris Sutton guest speaker, John Hartson guest speaker. It was just like, I think back to like, it probably didn't cost them anything to make, 'cause it's just highlights of the goals they scored that they've already got. And just people just love stuff like that. It was something that you love to reflect back on. I think there was one on Moravchik as well, which he didn't actually score that many goals for Celtic, but I think like, I can't remember what season it was for Rangers when they won the treble. It might have been like 95, 96 after the McEwen's lager shirt, where like McCoy's got European Golden Boot, and it was like they released a video for this league title, the League Cup, the Scottish Cup. McCoy's Golden Boot got its own. I think like there was, but it even went in, especially up there, it went back to like if Celtic, I think the one that I remember my cousin having was like green and whitewash when Celtic beat Rangers 5-1 at Celtic Park and Larsson scores a lob. That game got its own video release, which is mental. But obviously Rovers had the Bring on the Clarets DVD. Did you ever have that?
I remember it. I did not get it.
Yeah, I think I've still got that somewhere upstairs in the loft. Which obviously showed I think it showed the 2 FA Cup games, the 7 goals from the 2001 season. It didn't show both games, but it definitely showed all 7 goals. Some like interviews from Craig Shaw, and that was like released before the build up to the first game in October, which is mental. Like, we're going to play Burnley on October, let's release a DVD, which is crap, like, amazing thinking. So yeah, I just think football's got a lot worse. It might be nostalgia, but prove me wrong.
I can't prove you wrong. This is the thing. I mean, full agreement at this point. Like, I think what you're talking about is a combination of nostalgia. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm interested by the fact that I've been getting a lot of podcast-related adverts for me to watch LFC TV on, I think, a Sky subscription, right? So the demand, in theory, is there for the kind of club-related media that is outside of the traditional. The link to it being a physical media format is a specific form of anorakism that we all had as kids by being obsessed with football in a way that we wouldn't. The reasons that we were watching, and the one that I like the most still is one of the Battle for the Premiership. It's one of the 90s. It's post. I don't think it's 95, 96. I think it's not. Teddy Sheringham's still at Spurs, but he's at United in 99 when they win the treble. So a couple of seasons before that at most. As you said before with the editing, like, they were trying to build blockbuster cinematic experiences for people using archive footage that they owned all the rights to. But there's also something about the way that they chose to film, the things that they chose to film, the fact that when you think back to, especially football in the 90s, I can't think of an actual, definitely not a Premiership game that feels like you're watching. Whereas I can remember watching United at Highbury or similar, or lots of United Liverpool games. It felt like you were watching a battle scene from a war. People were violent to each other, uncoordinated at times, if we look at kind of the difference between the quality of football then and now. But the tension was so palpable and huge because it wasn't about even the implication. It was purely that like these teams had driven themselves to hate each other on a fundamental level, perhaps not fully understanding even why. I think there was a drama to it at that time because we'd created a genuine kind of commercial spectacle. and yet it hadn't been overwrought and overworked. And what we see and what we interact with now are overworked things. This is, I mean, I'll watch it because I'm an anorak and desperate and between other things that I'm supposed to. So I'll watch behind the scenes at Brockhall and stuff videos for no reason, really. And I appreciate the content, but there's not a lot of drama to it. It's not high stakes. It's not kind of appointment viewing necessarily. It's constantly available at my own convenience and therefore is kind of reduced in terms of like, whereas what we were looking at with the season reviews, which I think is probably the thing that we can focus on as being like the physical media for it, it was dramatic. You could have seen it 15 times, 20 times. I would regularly sit and watch season reviews. Like, I don't know what, I never had the 94-95 season review. I had the 95-96. I had the 95-96 review, and I watched that so many times, and I couldn't tell you why, because it's just a really disappointing watch. But I would compulsively watch it because somehow it always felt really dramatic. I think we talked about this last week.
We did, because I was with Mike Newell, because after the Tony Parks thing, I was drinking with Mike Newell, and all I kept saying to him was, remember that goal he scored against Chelsea? Remember that goal he scored against Chelsea? Darwin End's being built in the background. And he's like, how do you know so much about this game? And I was like, well, it was on the 92-93 video, and I watched that video like every night to fall asleep to, and then like I'd swap like 92-93, 93-94 through to Champions, and it was like, it as a kid, it was just what you watched, and like you said, it built up the drama. It was like, go by month, and it'd show you a little league table on some very basic slideshow animations, if you will, with some terrible music in the background, but it was amazing to see. It was so weird, like, because it was just the match of the day highlights with a new scoreboard at the bottom showing you the score and the attendance, but you were just obsessed with these videos. It was so strange, but I love it.
It's I think maybe the affection or the fondness that we have for it is an indication of receiving these things in your formative years. But also, if you think about it, you're kind of brainwashing yourself. Because especially if you're watching Rovers related season reviews, like the Sky Sports one is like the whole Premier League. Now, don't get me wrong. Whenever Rovers were on it, I'd be thrilled. I mean, it's my favourite scene because Rovers are on it, even if we're getting beaten 3-0 or whatever. But if you're watching the season reviews, you're kind of positively reinforcing, because there's like a, whether or not whether or not it's kind of like a disappointing season after winning the Premiership, you are kind of brainwashing yourself in a way. You're just kind of indoctrinating yourself by being like, the only thing that I want are these lads running around in blue and white specifically, and therefore I will never be able to stray from it. And I think I heard somebody talking about, I think it might have been Football Between the Lines. They were talking about KSI owning. Is it Dagenham? Dagenham Redbridge.
Or is it Russian and Diamonds?
This is exactly what I was going to ask. It's somebody in something. I think it's Dagenham. I think it makes more sense that way. And, you know, what they thought about it, and the fact that this kind of like mindless hours of content can be created and streamed and shared and A/B tested and optimized and monetized crucially, and is used actually purely, even when you see those kids, like, bless them, because they're obviously dorks, and that's fine. There's nothing illegal about that. But these kids that are turning up to football with the camera facing them for the duration of the game and giving their reaction to it, like, the disposability of the content now means that essentially all of it doesn't. Whereas an archivist, or let's be honest, probably a researcher who's on an internship over summer is being asked to go and pull all the good moments from the season, and then it's sent to an editor who has to try and craft the season narrative from it. Like, it is, without the budget, it's as impacting as a summer blockbuster in those kind of down months where there is no football, if it's not a World Cup year or a European Championships year. It's utterly vital for you, and it becomes addictive, and you follow it all the way through the season, especially when, as a Rovers fan, your season's not going probably that well. You need this kind of weird, well, we've done it before, we can do it again. So, yeah, I don't have any contentious point on this debate. And I'd love to talk about the fact that clubs' ambitions have scaled down, because I think...
Yeah, I think like you said, the season ends, and then it's basically 2 weeks to go on a pre-season tour, where that 2 weeks is spent, like you said, probably like internal videos, where it's like, oh, the behind the scenes of what we're doing onto the pitch, or like improvements we're making whilst the players aren't here. Then you get the classic return to training videos, and then you get the we're going to the airport and we're flying off to Miami for 4 weeks to play 6 friendlies, which becomes its own pre-season tournament, if you will. So that it's just that constant churn where you don't really get time to reflect on like what's happened the last 12 months. Whereas I think if a club won an FA Cup or won, I think I was going to call it a Carling Cup then, but I think it was only a Carling Cup for like 1 year. I don't know why Carling's come to my head. No one wants Carling's come into the head, Jesus. But yeah, if physical media was still a thing, they would see that as, oh my God, we can sell these videos for the next 20 years to supporters of our club. And whereas now it's like, it doesn't matter, as long as they're not relegated in a season, that it's almost like a continuation. Like there's never going to be a let's reflect back and enjoy this moment, because it starts again in 2 weeks and we're aiming for the exact same thing, and that's staying in the Premier League. So there's never a, oh, that was like a really bad season or it was a really good season. It almost becomes, especially at Premier League level, it's become, we've now been in the Premier League for 7 years. This is now our portion. It wasn't a 25-26 season. It was we got promoted in 2023 and we are still here. Maybe when they get relegated, they might do a Rovers and do like a 10 years at the top and the greatest goals. But like, I think like even that we've talked about all or nothing like slightly, and we said that could be the next thing that takes over it. But I think even then, there's nothing really to like pin it to like a time. I think, was the City one during the Centurions year? I think I remember like the goal at Southampton where he makes it, where I think Jesus lobs a keeper and they get 102 points and everyone goes absolutely ballistic.
Is that the game?
But again,
is that the game that he loses it at Nathan Redmond?
No, that was another night. See, this is exactly what I mean, though. That could have been exactly the same game. No one knows. That could be. You could tell me that was 16 years apart, and I won't be able to tell you, because every season just blends into one at that top level. Whereas a promotion-winning season or a season review or a special thing happening sticks in your memory for that reason.
And you pin it to that, and you associate it in that specific way. I think that's why we have the. I think it's occurred to me, because obviously we did speak about, does that get made and put on to a VHS if the physical media paradigm that existed in the 90s still exists? I don't know. I don't know if somebody takes, obviously it's not exactly a risky idea, because it was always going to have some eyes on it, but they did it in the States. They moved it over to here, because I think in the States it was NFL folk initially. They did obviously like very successful. Cardinals, that was it, because the coach moved to the Chiefs after. But by comparison, in F1, as watching millionaires drive in circles, Drive to Survive has kind of weirdly picked up that toy, where, and let's not discount like Sunderland. I mean, I've never watched Welcome to Reddit, but the Sunderland Till I Die thing is like a real gem of like pop. Yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, like, if Sunderland had choice to put that on VHS or DVD, they just don't do it, because it was so amazing, but in an embarrassing sense for them. Like the amount of quotes me and my brother still say to this day, like, why am I looking at Ibrahimovic about this list? Like you're going to need new speakers. He's like, yeah, let's pump up the atmosphere. It's slow, it's boring. I love that show. But again, if Sunderland had all that footage and went, should we release a video review this season? Everyone's saying no.
No, we look ridiculous. This is awful. Versus, we have signed the rights away and we don't have a great deal of edit capability. But I was going to say, the thing with Drive to Survive is, it's pretty safe. It's pretty sanitized. They give a little bit of like a dramatic flair to keep people gripped to it. But they tell a whole season story and they tell a personal story. And because, frankly, the actual footage from F1 is pretty dry. It's an hour of occasional moment of whatever. It's all about the technical and the interpersonal and the components, and they've turned it into a really great product, which is, how do you make people care about millionaires driving extremely expensive cars in circles? And they've done it. But we don't necessarily, I don't think we have that so much in football. We have like a disposability. Have you seen the Senna documentary?
I've seen the film. That's a documentary. I don't know if I've seen the documentary.
It's the Senna
biopic. It's just Senna.
Well, there's the one called Senna. That's like, it's a documentary about his life essentially all the way through up until it. And obviously the same director does the Amy Winehouse. I don't think they've done a football one, have they?
Probably not. No. I mean, probably the closest would be like Mourinho's new series, but I don't think they've ever done a film.
So we keep I guess we keep dancing around it, but something about football's constant state of flux. And I wanted to say something about kind of the constant need for evolution of how do we keep, especially the Premier League understands that it has an insane deal where it can sell its products to eyes in a way that so many other sports just can't get near. Its global appeal is basically unparalleled, but they are paranoid about losing, right? So you have Soccer AM had its flaws, and it definitely was, flogging a dead horse by the end of it. But at its peak, in terms of the cultural moment, it was exactly on the pulse. I remember at uni playing the Soccer Saturday drinking game where you had the key phrases and you had to drink at certain moments of it. Stuff. It was so deeply ingrained into kind of like casual and more, I guess, more adherent, like everything around it, the media and the content around it was kind of like the Sky Sports lens, but it spoke back to culture that was happening. Whereas now it's this kind of flailing thing of like, what if we do the Baller League? What if that's real? What if we turn the Saturday morning Premier League football show into the lowest common denominator? This looks like a show that has been self-produced on Twitch by some really annoying people and the occasional good speaker. They're constantly chasing that. I think you look at Infantino as the archetype of how do we stay at the top of the pyramid for as long as possible. And I think what I'm getting at is craft has really gone out of what people are trying to give back to fans. And I think this is maybe part of like a general malaise that exists a lot of fans, and God knows as Rovers fans. But it's because it feels like the quality of the product that we're being given constantly eroded, and they're trying to give us more and more and more of it whilst not better. I said to you before, like, football on TV was special, right? Saturday night was like up in viewing for Match of the Day. You'd maybe get 3 games on a Sunday, but if you wanted to watch football on a Saturday, you either went to it, you had an extremely bad stream on something like Justin.tv where somebody was essentially right, or you watched Soccer Saturday and then you waited for Match of the Day, or no highlights at all if you were a kind of a Division 1, Division 2 club at that time. And now we're being overloaded with it where they can't actually provide quality. And so, yeah, I think what you got to with your point, with the point that you raised, was there was something precious about physical. And if somebody works in music, I understand that people collect vinyl not to listen to them, but to ensure that they're kind of enshrining something in that you can't match anymore. You can't create the same special feeling around, I own this thing and I treasure it and will watch this so many times to the extent that 70% of it is essentially static because it is so eroded, because I love consuming it so much. How many times have you watched an Inside Brock Hall as a repeat? I've seen it once on Twitter.
Yeah, I get through 30 seconds of it on Twitter and it's like, yeah, it's the same as last week's. Which, again, the season reviews were exactly the same as the season before. There's 3 new teams that have been promoted, but again, like...
But it was quality. It was precious. And that's the difference. It doesn't feel precious anymore.
Another thing that worries me is we might potentially... I think you mentioned it earlier about the World Cup final. Like, if you watch the World Cup final back from '66, it looks bad. Right.
The one thing I would say that I realised when I was saying it was a heavy ball.
Yeah, it was a very heavy ball. You're right. Yeah, doesn't. I mean, look at the clips when you knock at the ball. It still looks bad. But so certain players. I mean, football's. We mentioned data analysis on this podcast already. Football's very much data aligned. It's stats, goals, assists, all that sort of stuff. There'll be players that will be lost to stats but there will be a video like Moravchik, like your Kakas and Gutis, who will be lost. Where if you showed someone my age a video of Kaká's best moments from 2004 to 2008, they would be mesmerised by that video. You could put 2 hours on that video and I'd sit and watch it and I wouldn't look at my phone once. But the problem now is that if Kaká does something magical on a Saturday, you've watched it on Twitter 4,000 times by Monday. And then it's almost like, oh, well, on Tuesday someone else has done something magical. So like Kaká's gone now and like and it's constantly like, okay, but what's next? But what's next? And no one ever goes back and watches. Like, and will that happen to Ronaldo and Messi? Will 20 years time people saying, yeah, there was stat padding though, like 700 goals, yeah, but there was stat padding, like, because no one actually ever watches like what they were doing at that time, because those moments will be gone, and they'll be looking back at our Twitter post arguing about which one was better, pointlessly.
Well, this is exactly right, and I think it's funny when you were mentioning that. I remember Beckham scoring from the halfway line against Wimbledon, and it was on the 10 o'clock news. Like, genuinely, it was on the 10 of. David Beckham has scored a goal from his own half. I mean, it's special, obviously, but looking back, it's just like, I mean, why is this the third story on the 10 o'clock news? Maybe it was a slow news day, but it's mad. But it wasn't about that. It was just, how else do we transmit this to people? Because not everybody watches matches. Like, not everybody does that. It's good enough content that we can put it out there. But as you said, it wouldn't make it now, purely because somebody would text you and be like, Beckham scored from the halfway. If I don't know, equivalent. If Cole Palmer scored from the halfway line, it wouldn't travel. Right, I don't know. I'm trying to think of who's the equivalent. Is Cole Palmer 2026 is David Beckham?
Who is the equivalent to the coolest footballer that has ever lived? Cole Palmer.
Listen, Rob. He's marketing pre-made ice cubes, premium pre-made ice cubes. If you're going on purely cool factor, he's got you on a literal level on toast. I don't know why I pulled Cole Palmer out there, but I just needed somebody who was. We don't have a David Beckham anymore. Jude Bellingham. Yeah. Jude Bellingham scored from the halfway line. Right. Yeah. Great point. You'd get a text, or you'd see somebody tweet about it, or you'd see the goal update, and the first thing you'd do is you would search Bellingham goal, because there'd be 25 beIN Sports reposts of it happening. And then you'd be like, yeah, I've seen that. And then the whole thing is like, yeah, saw that. Yeah, amazing, great, yeah, cool, done. Not a cultural moment at all. Jude Bellingham scored an overhead kick in an international tournament at a very, very consequential moment. And it's not as even have been, because it's just, we're constantly barraged with it. I think there's a lot of conversation about like, oh, footballers can't play too many minutes, and I tend to agree. Probably don't like ruin your entire body for the sake of what is essentially, contemporary gladiator sports. But fans also need a bit of respite. We do need the end of season switch off. Fine in a World Cup year, fine in a Euros. I don't need to see Fabrizio Romano seeing the signing by Club.game of Jeff Stelling. I don't know why that bothered me, but something about it when I looked at it was, I don't know if you know this Club.game thing. It's like trying to be FPL but also pay to play but pay to win. I can't really figure it out. Regardless, like it's incessant, it's constant, it's ceaseless. We are constantly barraged with it because frankly it's too big of an industry almost. I used to lament the fact that we were taken over by Venky's just before the TV deal basically kicked in, and like how much different is our reality if the Walker Trust hold on to it long enough. But part of me is like, burn it to the ground, like drop the viewership figures, make sure the TV deal is too small and people panic and exit, and maybe we just get 90s football seems like a cottage industry by comparison, and I just wonder if football wouldn't be much more enjoyable watching a little bit less of it, but a little bit more excitedly. Like, have you noticed how like Cup Final Day doesn't exist anymore?
Well, you're watching a 12:30 kickoff in another league before it, and then it's almost like the build up to the big game at 5:30. It's, I don't know, it's straight, or sometimes on a Sunday, which is.
Did you watch the Did you watch the Community Shield? Because I didn't.
No.
I watched West Ham.
That used to be like the Community Shield used to be like the pre-season curtain raiser, isn't it? That used to be like, oh my god, we're ready for football now. But I'm still not ready for football because this summer's just been football constantly anyway. So, like, I've seen like a couple of transfers, like Rodri going to Barcelona, and that Reinders has gone to Al Hilal or one of the Saudi clubs, I think. He's gone somewhere, and I'm just like, I feel like City signed him 6 months ago. It doesn't feel like he should be leaving at this point, but I don't have any excitement for Premier League anymore. I know people are starting to do Fantasy League, but I couldn't pick your fantasy team because not aware of who's playing for who. I saw Araujo playing for Liverpool the other day and I was shocked. I was just like, why are you there? Like, where's this coming from?
There's about 25 questions around that. It's like, why have you picked him and why is he picked to go there? I don't understand how that's come together. Fully agree. Yeah, I think stuff. I always used to look at the Community Shield. People used to say it was a nothing game when I was a kid, but in a way, it was. I mean, the FA Cup final capped the domestic season, and the Community Shield opened the domestic season. And God knows, before I was 10, we were still a Premier League team, and so it was of more relevance to me in a way. But I remember even in relatively recent years, pretty religiously watching it and being like, let's see at least what the champions are looking like. And then you get that window where, I guess, post-Wenger playing the kids in the League Cup, people started to take it slightly less seriously. And obviously it doesn't count in a treble, it doesn't count in a quadruple or whatever, a double. But nevertheless, it was a curtain raiser, and curtain raisers had like a significance that like it doesn't now, because frankly, probably more people ended up watching wherever Arsenal were on their pre-season tour than watched the Community Shield.
Yeah.
This is the thing. I think there's a barrage of content that we can't actually physically consume, and yet we do continue to try and shovel it in, and eventually you just get like you're just whatever the taste equivalent of like nose blindness is, you're just overexposed to it, so none of it's special anymore. You just compulsively have it on in the background being like, I'm monitoring Watford versus Middlesbrough, not because I care about it, but because it's available to me on a Wednesday.
Yeah, like a constantly feeding drip.
Yeah.
Okay, that was a long segment. This podcast was the longest I've ever one. Okay, that is it. If you disagree with us or anything of the things we said, please let us know on Twitter, BRFCS, all the places you get us. Just come up to me at the Blackburn End on Saturday and just batter me if you want to. And say, no, you're actually wrong about those videos and DVDs. This is why football's miles better now, because people overlap and are dead athletic and all that sort of stuff. But we are going to move on to part 3. We're going to ask the Rovers questions to end the podcast. And we'll see you after this message. Okay, final part. We're on to part 3 of this second episode of Kid Street Noise, and we're going to focus more on Rovers and ask a question of, are we okay for left backs? And if we do want another left back, is a left-footed Alebiosu the answer to our problems? Jack, do you want to start? Or do you want me to start with my opinion?
Well, I'll start with the question, but you should then give you the opinion immediately after the answer. Who is a left-footed Alebiosu, crucially, that we can afford? Are we just identifying a profile here?
Yeah, so I think Alebiosu's profile is athletic, very good going forward. I say like just travelling forward, not in terms of like final ball, because I think that's one of his weaknesses. Very good in duels, very strong. I think we noticed that on Friday night. His 1v1 battling is very good, but his defensive awareness and like IQ of the game, I think, is one of his worst traits. A lot of people have criticised Tom Aitchison for the first goal on Friday night, and don't get me wrong, he does move quite a lot of way across, but the ball is on our left-hand side of the pitch. Wolves are taking a throw-in. Alebiosu is man-marking the right winger, or the left winger, sorry. It's like on our right side. He is technically 75 yards away from play. There's no danger there. The danger is the gap that the midfielder then runs through and puts the ball past Toth. The fact that he doesn't read that and doesn't shuffle over it is very concerning. I think maybe that's just from being used to playing a 5-back last season with both managers, that he doesn't feel the need to fill that gap because he's the wing-back, if you will. But if Mowbray wants to stay with a 4-back, then Pickering's got that intelligence where he can tuck in at centre-back when the ball's on that side and will not leave you exposed, where I feel like Alebiosu is very much, this is my man. If my man doesn't score, then it's not my fault.
Yeah. And
when you're playing a back four, you can't do that. I'll put a picture on the podcast when I edit it later, but I'll show you when Alebiosu comes into the picture how far away he is from Aitchen. I know Aitchen has already gone over, but he's not gone that far over. The distance between McLaughlin and Aitchen isn't actually that bad. It's not like he's gone in front of McLaughlin or they're holding hands. But the gap between Aitchen and Alebiosu is absolutely ridiculous. I'm not just blaming it on Alebiosu. Forster gets turned too easily. Montgomery then goes across to press the ball, but with a player, I think the guy who passes, it's like £20 million player. He's got the quality to pick out a perfect way to pass. They run onto it and score. Some goals, and even if Alebiosu goes across, he might not have been able to stop it. I'm just saying that danger is not there. And if we force them to switch it out to the winger, then everyone shuffles across and defends it a lot easier. It's just like... But I don't know if you could coach that into someone like Alebiosu. He, like you said before, he's got all the physical aspects. He's got all the traits to be a top-level defender and footballer. Has he got the IQ and the game understanding? And basically the end product, because I think on Friday night, the crosses he put in, I think there was only one that I think Afolayan gets to, but his stretching requires a lot to get the... I think he does well with a header and just goes over the bar, but to score from there and beat the keeper, you'd need to do a lot. So I was quite disappointed with his end product on Friday night. Pickering, the first goal comes from Pickering's cross. Like, he crosses it, header comes out to Morishita, gets crossed back in, McLaughlin scores. Like, his quality on the ball is a lot better. We have been linked to Will Ferry at Dundee United, who's out of contract next summer. So probably we'll wait till then to sign him rather than spend... I think we're rumoured to spend $1.5 million on him. Don't want to spend $1.5 million on a left back. We've got Pickering Ribeiro, one that's free next summer. That doesn't make sense to me. The only thing that does make sense is that he is a set piece taker. He can take a good corner and a free kick, and we are desperately missing that. We're the worst team at attacking set pieces and defending set pieces as well. And I think that comes from... we can't practice defending set pieces because we don't have anyone who can take a good set piece. So how do you practice defending one when no one can actually take one to start with?
I love the idea that at training when they're trying to practice defending set pieces, it never beats the first man.
Everyone just stood there yawning at the back post, like,
Just
put one in.
Hit the first man.
Give me another ball. Yeah. So yeah, I don't think a left-footed Alebiosu is the answer. I think the balance between Pickering and Alebiosu is good. I just think we need a backup for Alebiosu because his fitness isn't that great.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one actually. The fitness isn't great because people don't necessarily think of that as his core weakness. I think Alebiosu is probably, if I'm being deeply unfair, one of those cases of like you weren't cut out to be a winger, but I can make you do a job in defence, and that is. All the best footballers, well, all the people that end up making it, apart from goalkeepers usually, start up front, right? They start off up front and they just move back as their career or their junior career develops. There's somebody who's better up front, so you're rotated down and then you find your position relative to how you end up, where your growth spurt is and how big it is, right? That's basically it. And Alebiosu is the thing of being like, as a kid, if he was as proportionally fast or kind of explosive as he is now, he would have looked terrifying to all the average kids around him and to every coach or scout that was watching him. There's probably a million players where it's just like that and they got put back there. Pickering is not quite as slow as Gary Neville, but he has that kind of weird steadiness element of like the profile of footballer that doesn't even necessarily exist anymore. I think when you compare him with, and we should talk about him, Ribeiro, and I'm not going to include Dion Deneve there because that's a guy who will be asked to play left back. But
he is here though. He is here.
He's as far as we know, he is physically in the building. I have not seen him in a while, but that's possibly because he mainly looks like a ghost most times I see him in a photograph. Interestingly, I always thought Pickering and Ribeiro were much of a muchness, and when we signed Ribeiro and I saw him over a few games, I thought, this is a profile that we are signing for left back, clearly, because these are borderline identical players. I think there's a difference. I do prefer Ribeiro. I think he's a little bit more dynamic, and he looks way more switched on at certain moments. I think Pickering remains terrified of a long ball over him. I've never quite seen a player have a ball played over him look more terrified when he realizes it's over his head and it's going behind him, which isn't a great thing. I don't know if the answer is necessarily that. I think this is a system thing of being more dynamic and having somebody that will work hard to get back. Ironically enough, Marista, probably not the most defensively proficient footballer in the squad, but an extremely hard-working player, might be better suited to support a defender who maybe needs that support on the other side. And I guess you've got like an asymmetry that you could maybe play out, where it's like the right is where we focus down. Don't try and disguise it necessarily, but if we believe that the right-hand side is where we will have joy, front up to people and say, we're going to go down the right, stop us. Your left back's probably the weaker starting point, so we're going to push on this side and you're going to have to deal with it and address it, and hopefully it opens up gaps across the rest of the pitch that we can exploit. I don't necessarily know that. Especially with Deneve's that thing of like, he's kind of like a sight hound. Like, you can have your hand on his collar and put him there, but if you stop paying attention to him for a minute, he's going to be just chasing the ball down the pitch. I mean, like, you're phenomenally out of position and there's a huge gaping hole, and he's just basically not listening to you. He's just running around after it and then refusing to come back. I don't know if the answer is Alebiosu necessarily, because I don't think we have dynamic and, let's say, players with positional responsibility, or enough positional responsibility and dynamism to cover the gaping holes of two Alebiosus on either side of the pitch, trying to consistently maraud forward. You're then playing with a back two, with two people in front, which, to be clear, strongest central midfielders at the minute are Sam Morsey and, weirdly, Adam Forshaw, who, what are they going to cover? Are you going to have them cover? Like, they're not. They're going to watch as the opposition wingers comfortably glide past them, and definitely be in shot. They'll be in frame, but they'll be nowhere near the ball. They will just be another body in there. I think I like the idea of, as you mentioned before, Pickering being able to tuck in as a centre back, where if Alebiosu pushes on, we're immediately a 3 and they're comfortable. I think Ribeiro, I don't know if he's comfortable doing it because we're not there in training every day, but I think Ribeiro does have attributes that would allow him to sit in the same way. Obviously, we don't have Ryan Hedges to be the auxiliary centre back as he was against Watford that season.
Don't remind me.
It was so wild. I think I turned up about 10 minutes before kickoff and I hadn't looked. Did we see you that day or not? Maybe it was a different day.
Yeah, it was a derby. It was a derby game where he played centre back.
Yeah, that was it. Right.
Ryan Hedges
that
played
was
centre back.
Yeah, we turned up just before, and it was the disbelief of somebody in the crowd saying, "King Hedges is a centre back," and I was like, I think that man might just be exaggerating for effects. And it's like, oh no, he really is. He's really having a go there. I think
there's a story behind that. So just before that game, Sky Bet or Sky Sports did like a YouTube interview, and it was like Tronstad, Pickering, and someone else got interviewed. It was like a quiz about how well you know your teammates and stuff like that. And the best in the air, like the best who wins like the most headers in the team, was Ryan Hedges. And it was almost like someone at Rovers was like, "Oh, that's good. Like Ryan Hedges is good in the air."
That's a data point.
We're playing John Eustace Derby, who's got Carlton Morris up front, but Hedges can win headers. So let's just have Hedges mark the best target man in the league, and that'll just balance it out.
Carlton Morris plus Ryan Hedges at centre back equals profit. Evidently not. I think if there's a system based change or a system based decision, both Pickering and Ribeiro can do the job at left back. You're just not going to have a dynamic left hand side, and that's all right. If you want to get the equivalent on loan of Raksaki this season and stick him out on the right, then maybe it's a problem. Like, maybe, but what do we have off the left right now? Like, nothing special. We're not like pinning all our hopes on the left being our pure outlet. Clearly, from what we've seen, the right hand side is the pure outlet. So keep letting that be the case and allow essentially a rolling 3 to a 4 depending on where it was. I feel for Tony Mowbray at points thinking about the squad, because it's like, it's really, really great until you consider the fact that we have like football pensioners in the middle right now.
Yeah. I think another thing that worries me is like, if people do get injured, which is inevitable, like Carter's going to have to go to the right back. If it's Steve Alebiosu got injured tomorrow, Carter's going to have to start right back side.
Yeah.
Carter's not good enough as a right back to play in a back four, which means you obviously have to swap to a back five, which means you've got to bring another centre back in to sit along Carter to cover him. But then that means you're playing 5-3-2, which take away your wingers who are having a good start to the season.
Yeah.
You've then got Morsey, Forshaw, and one of Cantwell and Morishita in the middle, who probably aren't suited to playing centre mid. It feels like the imbalance between what the squad is capable of playing and what Mowbray wants to play. Mowbray's already said he doesn't want to play at five at the back. It makes you automatically negative, which I think he's right. But our last two managers, Ishmael started with a four, but then switched to the five at the back because of the personnel. Michael O'Neill played a five at the back. If you knew you weren't going to invest in the squad to buy 15 players, surely you would have hired a manager that plays a five at the back, but knowing that he could just come in and say, this is my formation, you go there, rather than hire a manager that plays a four at the back and clearly has told people. So surely in the interview you would have said, I want to play a 4-2-3-1, or I want to play, this is my system, this is how I want to play football. Let's have a look at the squad and who players were. And yeah, it's all right on paper saying you've got a left back, right back and two centre backs, but really, Sean McLaughlin had a great game on Friday night, don't get me wrong. I don't think he's good enough to play in a back four. And Tom Aitchen is very young. He will get caught out playing in a back four, which is fine because that's the only way he'll learn, but that learning curve will hurt us. Again, Carter and Water at centre back are fine, but fine for 270 minutes out of a 3,000 minute season. And then again, it goes to like your midfield shape then, because you've got probably a lot of your talents in like the more attacking side of it. The defensive midfielders are very, like the notice period is coming up anytime soon. Like one rough tackle and they've gone, like the boots are hung up. So yeah, I find it a severe lack of planning, and one of them's going to have to change. Either the squad's going to have to change, Mowbray's going to have to change. We're clearly not going to change the squad, so Mowbray's going to have to change and play five at the back, or Mowbray's going to change in terms of leave the job and someone else will have to come in.
We talked about it last week. You asked my opinion on whether or not he'd still be here in May, right?
Has any of his comments changed that?
No. I said last time that it was a marriage of convenience. But maybe it feels a bit like kind of getting back with your ex now, of like you've had some time away and you remembered the good times and you thought, it's not that bad. And then suddenly he's in and he's just making sniffy comments over the garden fence to the neighbour. He's like, well, she was always a rubbish cook, stuff like that. Like, and I think that the lack of planning is like colour me surprised that.
Oh, that's gone.
Do you know what? At like 1:30 last night, I know we're off topic, but there was a car chase down my street, and that was utter chaos. It was incredible, but it was much louder than that. I think the lack of planning, is like, not to be. We can't be surprised by that. Clearly, like we have bamboozled individuals in charge of the technical progression of the football club. That's the best I can say. They appear to have been surprised by their circumstances somehow. I don't think that includes Mowbray. I think he probably knew exactly what he's coming into. The difference is, if we're to believe media reports, that he wasn't invited to the meeting and he found himself at the meeting, it's a savvy individual who maybe didn't quite understand how bad the squad was, but decided that it was quite important that he went to go and do something about it. I think you know, they talk about prime ministers and presidents in the US who think about legacy when they get to the kind of tail end of everything. And I think he's got a really good footballing legacy when you look at all the things that he's achieved and the clubs that he's managed and the jobs that he's done there and the affection that he is held within. And I think he views this type of arrangement that he has with us as an opportunity for a legacy. So, frankly, like, he could have skipped the whole thing. He really could have skipped the whole thing entirely, and not bothered. And he didn't, and he appears to be fighting for something to kind of get a good result out of it. I think he's still here in May. I don't know if he's here in June anymore, is what I would say. I think it might be of his own volition necessarily. Do I think he's going to change anything about anything? No, I don't necessarily, because I don't think he has the facilities to enact that above it. But yeah, I don't see him putting it back to a 5. I really don't.
That's fair. We'll see. Okay, that is it for the Rovers question debate. We've talked about everything from left backs, right backs, goalkeepers, set piece takers, absolutely everything. Thank you for joining us this week. If you're still here, please give the 4,000 Holes Show a follow or subscribe on whatever podcast platform you listen to. Give us a like and subscribe on YouTube if you're watching us in video format. Please leave a comment on BRFCS to let us know what you thought and what we can talk about in future episodes. And we'll probably see you all for Deadline Day stream that Jack's going to do. And yeah, I will see you at the Middlesbrough game and shortly after for Deadline Day. Thank you very much. See you in a bit.